Hi there, I'm here today with Mr. Ari Freeman. How you going, Ari?
Very good, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Ari is the Deputy Wizard of Christchurch and a musician, so we're just here today to explore some of Ari's thinking in the topics of magic and wizardry and music and how they link together. So, Ari, just for viewers here today, what actually do you do?
So, as a career, I am a professional musician. I teach guitar and bass for a living. I build instruments, I record music, and I play gigs around the city.
Wow. Quite a lot in there then.
Yeah.
Okay. And what, in sense of magic, how would you define the practice of magic or the art of magic?
So 5 years ago I became the apprentice to the Wizard of New Zealand, Ari Freeman. We are the only country in the world with an official wizard, and he was appointed by the Prime Minister Mike Moore back in 1990. So it's sort of a bit of public social fun that's been happening for well over 50 years now.
Wow.
Now, I would define magic, and this ties in with me being a wizard, as the ability to shift someone's perception in accordance with your will. That's a very open term for magic, and a lot of people go, well, isn't magic doing impossible things like Harry Potter or Gandalf in Lord of the Rings? And so, well, they are imaginary characters, so the magic I'm most interested in is magic you can do. A lot of little children come up to me and go, when I'm dressed as a wizard, and go, are you like Harry Potter? Is Harry Potter real magic? And I'd say, well, Harry Potter himself isn't real magic, but J.K. Rowling is a real magician, because from her ideas, she wrote a book, and this book has made her an extraordinarily powerful woman. And when you read the book, you go into her state of mind that she was in when she was writing the book. And to me, that's where the magic in it lies, in that ability to create an experience on purpose. So this means that music fits this bill. If I want someone to dance, I have to play them the right spell at the right time. They'll want to dance.
Yeah. So the link there between magic and music, how would you define that?
Well, I think if you look to traditional cultures, they all had some belief in magic. And it's because they based, and naturally so, we base our understanding of the world until the scientific age on our own experience. So music, people think music is you make some sounds, you twang a guitar and some sound comes out. Well, that's the first part that happens. The second part that happens is another human being or your own ears process that. And what I've learned from being a musician and a music teacher and a performer is people don't hear music the way the sound happens. They come away with their own individual impression of it. And if people actually heard music the way it really was, it would be a lot easier to teach and a lot easier to play. And anyone who has tried to pick up a musical instrument will know it's quite different than they expected when they first start. So music, being a musician, I create experiences, right? So
Unique experiences. So the contrarian viewpoint is that all magic is just fantasy, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that might be the cynic or skeptic's point.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
I'd say that's a dismissive attitude because, and I'd say that came out of the Enlightenment, where there was a split where we tried to be objective. So we at the moment, and we're still in the Enlightenment era, but it actually feels like it's coming to a close. And this is because science has opened up some very real issues that are going to be extraordinarily difficult to solve. So science is different to magic, but they are related. In science, you try and be objective. That means the best knowledge is that which can be measured. So if you can measure it, you can say something about it. Magic is very, very difficult to measure, and that's why most magic is not science, but it's based on experiences. They're both based on testing. Now, science is split off from magical practices such as alchemy. And alchemy combined religion, magic, and chemistry to create this form. So when an alchemist was doing a chemical process, they were also trying to enact that process on themselves. It was also a meditation. When in the scientific age they split off that aspect and tried to make it only about the chemistry.
Yep. Okay. And if you were skeptical, would you be able to become a magician?
Yes, well, I think the best magicians should be skeptics. Because a lot of people go, well, that's fine, but magic only works if you believe in it or isn't believe. Well, some magic only works if you believe in it, and that's called superstition. But I'm not as interested in that type of magic. I'm interested in these types of magic that actually everyone engages with all the time, like advertising, music, charm, which I'd include music in. The thing with belief is, firstly, people don't really understand how belief functions. So there's two kinds of thing the word belief could mean. One is how you feel the world should be in your head. The other one is how you actually behave in the world as if it were true. And that second thing is so much more important. I'm really sorry, but most people don't really care what goes on in each other's heads, but how we behave. So if you want to know what someone really believes, watch how they behave in the world, I would say. And then superstition, if the magic just disappears as soon as someone stops believing in it, then I'd say it's not very interesting magic. But there's plenty of magic that shouldn't work, that works on everyone up to a point. Hypnosis was considered magic when Mesmer created it, and it was absolutely regarded as pseudoscience until they discovered it worked over and over again. We still don't know exactly why hypnosis works.
Actually, Ari, I think you just read my mind, because that was one of my questions for you. Actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're on the money.
The other one that people have to engage with if they do any medical studies is placebo. And if you look into placebo properly, it's not just sugar pills.
Yep.
It's an aspect of all medicine. And the reason that you test in science a drug against a placebo test is not because the placebo test is some true, ideal baseline. It's that you cannot remove placebo, the suggestive, the psychological, the magical effect, the experiential effect. You can't remove that from any medicine. What the doctor's wearing is part of the placebo, the colour the hospital is painted as part of the placebo. It's all the suggestion. It's extremely powerful.
All those cues, yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about wizardry and being a wizard, what actually is a wizard? What would you say is a wizard?
Yeah, so if we take the meaning of the word back to its roots, the word wizard is an Anglo-Saxon term, and Anglo-Saxon's the same as Old English, and that means wise man or wise one or one who does wisdom. I don't necessarily think I am a wise one. I think it's someone who's interested in wisdom and is on that path. Do you know what I mean? And the thing that, to me, I'm definitely classified as a wizard is I think a wizard, this word, constituted a role in a society or a village back in the day. So I have lots of friends who are interested in magic or religion or all sorts of things, but most of them sit in an armchair reading books, and they're wonderful people and really extraordinary knowledge there, but something changes, and I learned this from being a musical performer, when you get out and engage with other people. So to me, a wizard needs to be a member of their community, and I don't get to declare myself a wizard, it's up to you. But if other people go, yeah, Ari, yeah, he's doing a good job, he's our wizard, if it's a fun idea to you, then I'm your wizard. If I'm not, then I'm not.
Yeah, okay. And what would you say are the benefits of engaging with magic, the practice of magic?
Yeah, well, we've got this very real issue in the 21st century, especially with science and things, is we have a lack of meaning, and there's a lot of people struggling with things like mental illness related to lack of meaning, so be it depression or anxiety or worries about the future. Science is always expensive, difficult, running behind schedule, And science is great. If we could answer all our questions with science, I'd be totally happy. But in the meantime, we also have to engage with this aspect of ourselves, our emotions, our experience, our intuition. And I don't mean anything airy-fairy about that at all. I just mean those parts of yourself that solve problems that in a non-logical way, which is the way you solve most problems. So why magic? Because you do not experience a song scientifically. You don't love your wife scientifically. And you don't have an argument scientifically or a beautiful moment scientifically. All of these things are experienced. Other than that, science and magic are really similar. So I think magic opens the door to comparing how different cultures relate to meaning and experience.
Okay. And in sense of role models or inspirations for you in your maybe in your early life, in sense of the practice of magic and becoming the deputy Wizard of Christchurch, is that one particular person or doctrine or figure that you can connect to or relate to that kind of inspired you at all?
Well, one thing I like about the word wizard is it lets me encompass many, many different things that I'm interested in. But definitely the Wizard of New Zealand was a very fun figure when I was a child. I especially remember his, he printed tens of thousands of badges saying I believe the wizard disappeared on census night because he didn't want to be counted as a figure in the census. And his point was mostly to point out that you don't have to do anything to exist. You do not need a piece of paper to exist. You exist because I'm here affirming your existence, and I exist because you're here affirming mine. And the idea that you don't exist if you're not counted on some sort of role is a silly idea, and he's trying to bring back sort of a law of nature back to human understanding. Another really important guy is the comic book writer turned novelist Alan Moore, and he did a really good little talk. There's a video called The Mindscape of Alan Moore that's quite good, sums it up, and he discusses magic, and he says something like, I believe magic magic was previously explained as the art, and I believe this to be literally true. Any art, be it visual art, music, performance art, writing, I believe to be literally magic. And what he means is that it creates a real experience. Now, he's not a musician, he's a writer, but he's done a lot to, he's a kind of postmodern writer who's done a lot to push the limits of what can be done with writing to create an experience in someone's head, especially in the field of comics and novels. But he put that word music in there, and I let him listen to that and said, well, I am not yet a writer, I'm not sure if writing's going to be my main thing, but I'm definitely a musician. So Alan Moore has not explained how that works, but I think I'm going to use that as permission to get started.
Okay. And what would you think are the key differences in perception around this thing called magic? So if you look at the Western culture and you look at other cultures, quite a broad question, I guess, but you know, in some other subcultures, is it a normalized facet of existence that there are magicians when you compare to the West? Absolutely,
because this idea that only that what you can measure is true is very, very recent in human history. The word science was coined roughly 1833 by a guy called Whewell, and before that it was called natural philosophy, and before that it was humanism, and before that it was Christian humanism. So the idea was there was a movement in Christianity and Islam and Judaism that it was important to understand God's world. That's the way they looked in there. They understood God had created the universe, and to fully appreciate God, you too should study the universe. And this is where we get alchemy from, which really starts in the Persian Empire. And then, so from that they took God out of the equation at a certain point and said, okay, well, God's sort of an unknown quantity and it's causing us issues, and plus we have to deal with the church and everything. We call it nature. Okay, so then they called all of creation nature. But it was they still had that idea to honor nature. You should find out what nature is. And so it goes down the scale, and that's basically what we're still doing. We're still reverently worshipping the concept of discovery in the natural world, and that's hopefully what science is, and the mathematical world, which is a more ethereal kind of spiritual plane, if you will. But we have taken out that aspect, for better or for worse. It's done some incredible things, but it has created this kind of lack of meaning that, and yeah, as Nietzsche pointed out, it's not that religion was doing an amazingly incredible, perfect job. It's that be careful what you replace it with, and at the moment there's somewhat of a gulf. Now before that, if you look at traditional societies, indigenous societies, and the people who we're all descended from, they all believed in magic. They all measured the world through their experience, not through this objective measuring, like with rulers and tape measures and things. So, so magical cosmologies and magical understandings of the world are ones that are experience-based, and that's how most human beings think.
Okay.
And historically, and still today, because most of the time you don't do science to make decisions, you do experience to make decisions.
And do you have an experience, a personal experience perhaps, that might be striking or memorable? There's the saw for us. Where you've witnessed magic, like on a stage performance or something live, that you've gone, holy moly. Have you got an experience in that regard, Ari?
Well, I think the most powerful experience for me has been through music, and just the ability to absolutely create a moment in time that makes everyone forget about the past and the future and just move in a group, maybe dance up and down in a group.
So is that you being the creator of the magic or the recipient of the magic, or both?
It's a feedback loop between performer and audience. Now, stage magic is a good one to bring up, because I think that's been the last and important oversight in people discussing magic. Is we've had the people who go, well, only science is important, but we've discussed experience now, and then you have people, well, experience is important, but not stage magic, because that's tricking people, and like we can't have tricks. It's like, it's all tricks. I'm sorry, but stage magic is the best place to start, because it's all tricks. Now, if you look at what we understand scientifically about the human perception system, our senses, you see that we do not see the world the way it comes up when we measure it with instruments. We see it quite differently. We know that colours are an arbitrary spin-off from the way we've evolved. There's certain colours, such as brown and magenta, that have no equivalent wavelength combinations. Brown's apparently just dark orange. Look this up if you don't believe me. So we see a tiny part of the electromagnetic spectrum as light. We can't see radio waves, yet they're still the same thing as light. And our hearing, we hear between a certain range of sound waves, but there's all this information going on above 20,000 hertz and all this information going. So we don't see all of the world. Some animals can sense electric radiation, some can sense magnetic things. The world would look really different if you were a bee or a bird, and no animal sees all the information that's whizzing past us all the time. So what you choose to see completely changes what you can do, and therefore you are always being tricked. So if you don't think you're being tricked, you're definitely being tricked, because you're being tricked by yourself as well as the stuff out there. So the best thing to do, I think, if you really want to get a grip, if you're interested in this stuff, is to start with something like stage magic, where the trick is overt, and work backwards from there. You know, so stage magic is real magic, and what I mean, it's even though it contains fakery and trickery, because the magic is not the apparatus, the thing that the magician does. The magic is the experience that they create. So something appears to disappear. The experience of it disappearing is the magic. Whether it disappeared or not is that's the objective. Okay, so they split off at that point. Now you could go, well, only the objective's important, but why do people rush to buy tickets to stage magicians and mentalists and Darren Brown the mentalist and all these things? Because it's stunningly entertaining to be tricked in that way, and then realize that advertising tricks you, that we trick each other when we talk, that that when a waitress serves you, she's not really super happy to be there, she's tricking you, and it's all okay. But this is where things start to get interesting.
So just come back to hypnosis, because independently of some of your questions for us today, is hypnosis magic? Would you? Well,
when it first
hypnotic practice, would you say that?
When it was first developed by Mesmer, the guy who created it, it was considered magic. Yeah, and all the scientists said this is rubbish. It shouldn't work, and so they started doing what was then parascientific research on it, and it's one of those few things that turned out to be completely scientifically verified. Now, hypnosis is an interesting one. It works on suggestible people more than unsuggestible, and you might think, oh, that's alright, I'm not very suggestible. Well, you probably are. And the other thing is, don't be so sure that it's such a good thing to be to be defiant and not suggestible. Suggestible people studying in psychology tend to have more friends, better personal relationships and that sort of thing, because they can take on reflect the manner of the person they're speaking with and relate to people.
Yep.
And what I would call prickly people, the ones who wouldn't be hypnotized easy, are often the sort of socially more difficult people of the world. Not that we don't need these people, we do.
Okay.
So but hypnosis seems to be something completely real, and yet very, very hard to pin down.
Yeah. And how would you link magic with the, say, paranormal, supernatural world? And there's part A, part B. Do you think there's a fear of getting into the wrong hands, sort of thing?
So
this magic thing.
I think we really just have a confusion of understanding and terms.
Yeah.
So I really like something called the principle of charity. This is when you're in conversation with someone, you should aim to truly understand what they mean when they say something, when they make a claim. And until you've done that, you can't have an actual dialogue with them where you get to understand each other. You can have a debate, but debaters do not seek to get to any kind of truth. They seek to persuade, which is another kind of magic trick. So the thing with paranormal and ghosts and spirits and all these things is you've got to understand what the people mean when they say that, and if they say, I saw grandma's ghost, what do they mean? Well, the first thing you've got to understand is they might not be able to express in terms that are satisfactory to you what they mean. So you've got to ask them a lot of questions. And what I've come down to by doing this exact same thing is people who experience ghosts, spirits, talk to Jesus, whatever it is, they measure the world, and I'm not saying these things are real or not real, I'm just saying what these people experience. They experience the world through experience. When you ask them, do you see a ghost? Yeah. Was it real? Yes. They'll say it's real. And you say, did you shake its hand, or could you touch it? Oh no, I can't touch it. Okay, could you smell it? No, I can't smell it. Did you see it? Yeah, I saw it. Okay, did it look like the chair in front of us? No, it was wispy and see-through. Oh, okay. So you get down the list, and then you find that what we can definitely say is that experiences of ghosts are real, and you can do science on experiences of ghosts, and you can do sciences on religious experiences, but you cannot pin down, it seems so far, you cannot pin down a ghost, because that's sort of the definition of the word ghost. So I think many people who see these things or engage with paranormal stuff are being totally genuine. But I think the first hurdle is that people do not seek to understand what they mean. They mean that there are strong emotional an experiential effect of something, that's what they define as real. So,
interesting. Okay. And in sense of the next, maybe a year or two, you know, where you going in your music and your magicals?
Yeah.
Have you got any sense of things that you like to achieve or build an audience around your following and your thinking? Can you enlighten us as to what you might want to seek to achieve in the next 1 or 2 years, Ari?
Yeah, well, mostly I have a bunch of ideas. I see a need for certain ideas in the world, and I just want to share them. And I like having conversations with people. If people can come up or with a reason why I'm wrong or want to challenge me on it, I'm really happy about that. Definitely come and do that. So I'm out in the square usually about 12:30 to 2:33 on Fridays, and the old Wizard's there too, and people can come and talk to me there. Yeah. As for what I'm trying to do, because I see a book here that nobody has written yet, and that's the only reason I feel I should do it. I'm writing a book called Pragmatic Magical Thinking, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I hope to have a draft. It's going to take a while, but I hope to have a draft finished by the end of the year. There's a blog called Pragmatic Magical Thinking where I'm publishing these chapters as I finish them.
Right.
So people can already engage with that. pragmaticmagicalthinking.blogspot. And then I do some performances that involve magic. So some of my performances I'm overt, I'm dressed more like I'm dressed today. Other ones I dress as a wizard with psychedelic colours and everything and play to the audience. And a lot of it's in the spirit of fun. So there's those are probably the next few things happening.
Yeah, excellent. And yeah, I think that's a really good rounded interview for today, Ari.
Thank you.
Very enlightening for me. Just finally, I guess you've answered this in part. If someone was curious as we're getting involved in magic and wizardry, what would you suggest for them to get started? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, just look me up on Facebook, Ari Freeman. There's a page, Wizards of New Zealand. You can get me through there too. Pop me a message and I'll be happy to suggest some things to read or look at, or I mean, that's probably a good way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks very much for your time today, Ari.
Thanks.
And I'm sure viewers are taking a lot away from that interview. And we'll catch you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right.